Hello YouTube, Alexander here. Thank you for tuning in to another video. And before we get started, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's sharing these, subscribing, liking and dropping comments down below. It means a lot. We're growing very, very fast for such a young channel that I've just created. I'm stoked. So if you want to get involved, go hit that subscribe button, drop me a comment. It means a lot. Thank you. As well as that, if you do want to see me for some live content, jump in some chat and tell me how bad I am, how great I am, cheer me on while I'm racing. Well, I'm streaming every weekend on Twitch. You can find the link in the description, it's on screen now. Joining the chat will be a hell of a lot of fun. So, with that out of the way, what am I doing today? Netcar Pro. So, Netcar is really old, from like 2006. The graphics are going to look horrible, but it still does things no other simulator does. Let's jump right in. Okay, so welcome to the splash page of Netcar Pro. As you can see on screen, you were able to do some online racing, some offline testing. You were able to edit your driver. You had your settings, your replay, and your manual. Now, this had online racing, yes, but that was one of its weaknesses. It also had a lot of real cars that were actually worked on with real teams and manufacturers. It then had some replica cars that you could have used if you wanted to. Now, the whole point of this was for people to get some real world testing in, so you were able to modify and make files to add to the game. And then it had weather. So we're going to get into a sunny day at Silverstone first. This is a mod track. Formula KS2, very fast car, very scary car. And with this old circuit at Formula 1, Silverstone Grand Prix, the bridge circuit, we're going to see just what it was from 2006 that this game had and still has today. So we'll do a couple of laps in dry weather first, just so I can get my eye in. It has been at least a decade since I've done a lap in one of these KS2 cars, and you can already hear the extreme volume coming from this game. It had a brutal soundtrack, not in terms of music, but in terms of engine note. Just as Assetto Corsa Competizione has now, Netcar Pro led the way in terms of sounds. They don't sound anywhere near as good today, but back then, everybody was blown away just by the violence coming through your ear holes and the sheer sound. Tyres, yeah, they were a little bit bad sounding, but this is where this game still reigns supreme. And that's in the tyre model. Now, as you remember from the last video, Live for Speed, very good in terms of netcode, but you don't really feel the weight moving around in the cars. You get a lot of feedback through the steering wheel, but the car just doesn't feel real. The force feedback does, and the racing side by side is as real as it gets on Live for Speed, but the cars don't react the way they do in the real world, and that's where Netcar Pro is different. Is we're going to the gravel? No, we're alright, we're alright. So, Netcar Pro, I can see what the weight is doing. I can feel it. I know what to expect going into each corner. I know where the weight is, where the balance is, and I can react to it. And it feels real. That's the thing. That's the weird thing about a game from 2006. Okay, yeah, it doesn't look great, but it does feel it. As I'm finally able to hit that apex. And just careful on the throttle as we come around that right-hander before we're into the really old bridge complex. Of course, that chicane was added before I was born. And now this part of the circuit's been removed before a lot of the viewers of this channel will have been born. Many of you only knowing the current layout. And of course, all of the curbs and the barriers were blue and white back here as well. Oh, I thought I was going to the gravel again. Well, you can just see just how well this responds to a change of grip. Now, one of the things it was most brutal as I get it very wrong there, and just explain, was the tyres. They picked up dirt, which unfortunately you might see the edges of, just the far edges of the screen, but you're not going to see very well. However, that dirt does stay on your tyres for just a little while. And then it also had flags. You saw them waving there. If somebody went off, a flag would wave in the distance. You didn't get a bit of text on screen. You didn't get a flag notification in the corner where you're not looking. The flags actually waved at the side of the barriers where they would in real life. And Assetto Corsa Competizione is doing that now, but no other title is. And this was 2006. Absolutely led the way. As I'm going around again and there's a barrier and there's damage. So I probably don't want to race that car again. But there you go. That is a couple of laps. And if I can see sometimes, you can't see them on the screen. 129.970. That's not so bad, but yeah, you can see the GUI is a bit stretched out. It wasn't designed for triple screen. Triple screen wasn't really a thing back in 2006. You had to sort of cobble it together. But we're gonna go back on to Silverstone, and we're gonna add a little bit of rain, just a little bit. Let's make it wet, because you have to remember that the only car game out there to simulate rain properly right now is Competizione. Assetto Competizione brought back rain when iRacing has promised it. Many other Simcade titles have promised it, but nothing has delivered. Assetto Corsa got it with an add-on, but this is where it started. So as you can see, we have rain spots falling on the visor. There is spray behind me in the mirrors if I was able to show you. Of course, I am in triple screen. And you can see there are puddles on circuit, and yes, we will aquaplane on those puddles. Of course, we're not going flat out through Maggots and Beckett's at the moment. But this is 2006. Now, one of the things that I said I was going to talk about was what this title has that no other title has after nearly 20 years. It's been, what, 16 years since this was in development. And then the little Italian team brought the title down to a fair in Italy, and that's where it was released. And you can see the yellows on the screen there, just waving for me, being an absolute idiot. But you can see that there's no effort made to try and dull what the tyres are doing. If you get it wrong, it's your own fault. There's no game interference. Whereas I think that's something that Assetto Corsa Competizione isn't doing all that well. It's like you can still race nearly enough flat out on Competizione when it's wet. Yeah, you'll still aquaplane a little bit over the puddles. So it does add a little bit of a challenge, but it's not like this. It's not like real rain. As we're wide, just picking up a bit of gravel there. And that's the result. And I really want to let go of the steering wheel there, and let's go back to the pits to repair that. As the car is being repaired. And down we go. So this is one of the things that you notice when you jump back into old titles that were just brutal. This wasn't designed to get millions of people racing all at the same time. When it was designed, there was no interest in how much money it was going to make. They weren't too interested in the commercial aspect of it. It was just raw simulation. And it was all about how well they could deliver on the tyres, how well they could simulate the controls, because don't forget, Sparco was involved with this. They spent a lot of time with the steering wheel and the controls in the cars. So Kunos did a really good job there. Just getting a lot of manufacturers involved to ask what products were going into cars. Could they have some to model? And could they be told what things do? Because this still has, even though you can't see them, I'm not interested with interacting them, but there are things inside the cockpit that if you click, they work. So if you want to turn lights on in one of the vintage replicas or the Ocella, there's a toggle switch inside the car, and if you click it, the lights come on. And that's something no other title has, apart from like Flight Simulator. Of course, race simulators are very different to flight simulators. And you can just see the puddles just laying in wait there as we come around Woodcut. Oh! Careful on the throttle there. We survived that time. The car is really kicking out, but it feels real. It doesn't feel like it's fake. It doesn't feel like Project Cars where the ice has just been turned on. It feels like when I hit a puddle, for that brief moment, I'm aquaplaning. When I hit a bit of tarmac again, the grip comes back and you can feel it through the wheel. This isn't a direct drive wheel, it's not some £2,000 expensive Simicube thing. It's a dirt cheap T300. And as I'm going way off, just try not to go in the barrier. Of course there's tarmac there now. And you can see a lot of drips on the visor there. Everybody waving the yellows for me as well. But if this was possible in 2006, oh god, not under the wall. Why isn't it possible now? Why is it every title that comes out just has to focus on how many sales they're going to get, how many people are going to play their game? What we need for the survival of simulated racing, really, is another title like Netcar to come out. One where the netcode is fixed and you can actually race with a full grid. One where the graphics have been updated, just so that we've got something that not everybody can do. Because as you'll know, if you joined me on stream recently, I've been given Competizione a go, and the people driving there with Platinum licenses, they wouldn't be able to do a lap in Netcar Pro. The talent is awful when you've got the servers that I've been joining. iRacing's just the same. if you can afford an Xbox controller and a subscription, and you don't mind remortgaging for a bit of content, you can go and do iRacing, and it's easy. You can drive a Formula 1 car on iRacing, and it's no sweat. The same cannot be said for Netcar Pro. Yeah, live for speed. Things are just as easy as they are on iRacing. Things are just as easy as they are on Assetto Corsa. But they are dulled down just a little bit. Oh god. I think I've got too much dirt on the tyres. I'm struggling to keep it in one direction. But this is it. Simulation. Oh, have I beached it? Nope. That bit of curb there. Of course, in real life, there used to be a different layout there to the Formula 1 layout. And you can see the car bouncing over bumps. But this is not easy. And it wasn't easy in real life. You couldn't come out to a circuit and put 1,000 horsepower down and expect to have no difficulty keeping it in a straight line. But the Netcar Pro was brutal in that it showed you just where your talent was. There was no game mechanics to hide it. You were as good as the game told you you were. And that's one of the reasons I still love this. It was there to remind me that I probably couldn't make it to Formula 1 even if I had all the money, because I can't handle these in the wet. Yeah, the dry, no problem. Anyone can race in the dry. But it takes people like Michael Schumacher to really excel in the wet. Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton. These are people that are just fantastic in the wet, and I think to be a really good racing driver, that's where you have to excel. Without any game mechanics to hide things, to make you feel better than you actually are. Just look at the car. Struggling with every little puddle. Trying to come around at every opportunity. As I'm really short shifting here and still getting it wrong. And you see that every little mistake I make results in the simulation going, yeah, nah, you've pushed it too much. And this is why real teams worked with them, real manufacturers. It's how they ended up with the funding for Ferrari Virtual Academy. Yes, the same team that did that. And then that was very successful. Charles Leclerc will tell you just how much. And that, of course, led the way to Assetto Corsa Competizione. Oh, dear me. I think these tyres are a bit second hand. All the spinning definitely not helping them. Here we go. Nice and gentle on the throttle here. Trying to accelerate as fast as possible without upsetting the car. And then to get on the brakes without locking the tyres. There's no ABS. no stability control or anything like that. It's just a Formula car. You get in it, you set it up, you go. And you had to know you're set up. Of course you could learn. And this is exactly how I ended up learning. But of course, it wasn't easy, and you had to put in the time. And that's what a lot of modern day sim racing is missing. Nobody puts in the time anymore. Gone are the days where I was racing V8s, putting in 100 laps every weekend, just so I could keep pace with people like Stoffel van Dorn and Florian Strauss, Eric de Vries. Gone are those days. You just turn up, get in and go. And there we go, that's more damage. But that's wet weather around Silverstone. And you've got to admit that that is pretty epic. There we go, times on screen. 1:52, my best lap. And I still didn't feel comfortable. So let's try a different car. Because one of the things that was absolutely amazing about this was that the mods were fantastic. And one of my favourite races, one of my favourite places is Le Mans. The 24-hour race is very, very special. I'm sure you all will agree. And this circuit holds a special place for me for all the 24-hour kart races I've done. And to be able to go out in a replica of the Shelby Daytona. And listen to that. Of course, this uses a shifter, not paddles. And as we can see, you can see very little. It's not designed to replicate the interior truly. It's not designed for replicating the graphics perfectly. It's designed for simulating tyres and simulating engines, aerodynamics, driver inputs, and it does it all so well. And back when laser scan circuits first became a thing. Oh, as we're going a bit wide there, we don't have the grip that modern cars do. We got away with that. When laser scan tracks first became a thing, this was something that the game benefited from, because Netcar Pro, where you could add tracks in, you could modify the game, people would add tracks in. I'm going to brake early here. And some of those tracks were laser scanned. And I don't think this is it, but there was a laser scanned version of at least the public section of Le Mans. And it perfectly replicated the little point down this part of Mulsanne Straight where you had to cross as an LMP driver, otherwise you'd bottom out on the camber of the road. Something that, you know, the average person watching doesn't understand. That the LMP drivers can't just go from one side to the other. Because the floor hits the road. And when I first experienced that, it was immense. And again, you can see the hill famously where the Mercedes flipped many years ago. Nope. Completely ruined that down at Arnage. But we survived. Of course the gravel isn't replicated very well, the grass isn't replicated very well. I don't think they need to be. And as you can see how old the graphics are with the trees. It really doesn't need to be perfect. Down towards Indianapolis. In this thing, need to be on the brakes very early. There we go, around we go. This thing looking absolutely great in terms of how it responds. You can see the car fighting with me. You can see the weight transfer. Coming around into the Porsche curves now. Gingerly balancing the car. Kart circuit on the right hand side there, the pit garages. Of course, many a 24-hour race held there on the Alan Prost circuit international. And I'm going to miss that. Yeah. Please don't hit the wall. Okay. And you can see the flags again, waving there properly. No silly overlays. Nothing to tell you that it might be a bit arcade-like. It was just pure, solid simulation. And on this 90s version of the 24-hour circuit, it's absolutely pure bliss to drive. When I say 90s version, but you've got the 2000s borders up, sponsors. I'm going to go a bit slower here this time. I'm still too fast, I think. No, we made it. But this is very much how it looked when I visited. A lot of years ago. And I've got to say something. This is absolute pure nostalgia. Ooh, don't look up, don't look up. Bit of a fishtail. That was very dicey. One of the things I do miss though, there was a different version of Le Mans at the point where this was still widely played. And on your right hand side about here, there is a stables who have a plastic horse, and that horse had actually made it into that version of the laser scan circuit. And I thought that was a very unique touch. And of course all of the street signs just there to try and remind you that it is a road circuit. Unlike many arcade titles, which still try and convince you now that racing on public roads is not the way forward. But that's what this was all about. bit slower this time. See if we can get a better exit. Much better. Much better. And of course, bottom right hand side, the little timer. Too hard on the brakes, too hard on the brakes. That's going to be a barrier. As I really have to let go there. And that's a broken car. So there you have it. That's a couple of laps around Le Mans. Let's see if we've got a time. 5 minutes 5. I don't think that's too bad for such an old car. There you go. I'm not going to bother going back out in the wet. I can't manage with that car, but there you go. That's Netcar Pro. So there you have it. Netcar Pro. Tell me what you think about this down in the comments. To be honest, after trying it for the first time in years, I'm still blown away by how that tyre model responds, how the weight responds to the inputs, and just how difficult it is. If you get it wrong, you know about it. So, yeah, why aren't more games simulated properly, just like this? With that said, that's the end of another YouTube video. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and reminder, subscribe, like, comment. It helps so much. Thank you. As well as that, don't forget, I'll be live Saturdays and Sundays for a little while, but Saturday was the planned day. However, I'm trying Sundays. If Sundays wins and we get more people joining in, I'll stick to Sundays. So vote for your best J by joining me in the chat. Link in the description, and we'll see you for some banter. Thanks guys. Bye bye.